Hello class, I will be discussing the problems I have given you. So we'll start with the problem pertaining to credible company. So in this problem, what we are asked to compute is the correct amount of accounts receivable and the amount to be presented as trade in other receivables under current assets. So first, let's just analyze muna what the problem is all about. So we have here a P account of the accounts receivable of credible company. We have here some transactions affecting the accounts receivable. So as we can see, the accountant or the bookkeeper of credible company erroneously recorded some of the transactions using the accounts receivable account. So supposedly there are transactions here which should be recorded in a separate account title, but the bookkeeper, for some reason, mistakenly recorded it under accounts receivable. So what we have to do is we can actually first compute muna for the accounts receivable balance per records of credible. So we'll just add muna all the debits and all the credits, no, para makuha natin ang ating unadjusted balance o yung balance per ledger ni credible company. So if you're going to add all of this, the total debits will be 7,180,000. So I have here a computation in Excel. So I have plotted all of the amounts under the debit side. So it totaled 7,180,000. And I have here the total or the amounts under the credit side. So that's a total of 5,490,000. So if I'm going to offset the debits and the credits, then we'll have accounts receivable balance to amounting to 1,690,000. So most probably at this time, since we don't have yet our adjustment or adjusting entry, so yung records ni credible company is showing us a debit balance of 1,690,000 accounts receivable. So of course, alam natin that that amount is not correct, no? So looking at the ledger, the accounts receivable ledger of credible company, we can say really that there are really items here which should not be included, in the under the account title accounts receivable. So what we're going to do next is to identify, no? So siguro it would be better to identify na muna items which should be or which legitimately should be included as part or as under your accounts receivable account. So I have here the computations. Okay, so let us just go over the items listed or included, recorded under accounts receivable. So of course, we have our balance of beginning balance of 600,000. So you have here 600,000. And then also included in the account is your charge sales. So pag charge sales, meaning that's a sales on account. So ibig sabihin when you're going to record it, you're going to debit accounts receivable and then you credit sales. So most probably this is a legit na accounts receivable transaction. So I have plotted it here at the beginning, then the sales on account or the charge sales. Next would be the shareholder subscription of 200,000. So as you know, this 200,000 here should not be included under the caption accounts receivable or under the account title accounts receivable because it should have been recorded in a separate account title, specifically subscriptions receivable. So I'll just encircle it so that we'll note that this is not included as one of the transactions under accounts receivable. Next would be the deposit on contract. So this one also is not to be included, supposedly not to be included, not to be recorded under accounts receivable because just like your subscriptions receivable, this is also a non-trade na account, non-trade na receivables which should have been recorded in a separate account title. Another is claims against common carrier for damages. So I would like to encircle it just like the other two because claims against common carrier for damages, although we can consider this as current, but it is not fitting not to be recorded under the account title accounts receivable. IOUs from employees also is a non-trade receivable which should have been recorded separately. So hindi siya dapat isama dito sa ating P account or sa ating account title na accounts receivable. It should have been recorded in a separate account title. Also, the cash advance to affiliates na should not be part of our accounts receivable because obviously this is a non-trade receivable which should have been recorded separately as advances to affiliates. Next would be advances to suppliers. So same thing, this is also a non-trade receivable which should have been recorded separately. So although this one is a current asset, now we can consider this as a current asset, but it should have been recorded in a separate account title. So most probably the appropriate account title would be advances to suppliers. So that account can be used to record these advances to supplier. So going to the left side, we have here collections from customers. So when we have collections, what will be our entry? So pag may collections tayo, our entry will include a debit to cash because you receive cash and a credit to accounts receivable. So that is why, of course, this is a legit transaction under accounts receivable. So that's why I've added it here under your credit side. Then we have the write-off. So we're assuming that the company here, credible company, is using allowance method in recognizing the doubtful accounts or the bad debts. So kung write-off ito, so most probably yung entry natin pag under sa allowance method would include a debit to allowance for doubtful accounts and a credit to accounts receivable. So meaning if there is a write-off, no, your accounts receivable is really affected. So that's let us consider that. Now let's take that here na 35,000. Next is merchandise returns. So pag may returns, what will happen is that we'll be recognizing sales returns, and of course, that could decrease your accounts receivable. Kasi your entry will include a debit to sales returns and a credit to accounts receivable. So that's also correct na that we're going to recognize 40,000 as our returns, a deduction to your accounts receivable. So next would be allowances to customers for shipping damages. So this one has the effect of decreasing the accounts receivable also. But since this is still an allowance, I would like, I would rather present it as a separate account title or in a separate account title. I'll not deduct it immediately to your accounts to the accounts receivable balance. No? So what I would like to do is to recognize it in a separate allowance account. But of course, in the end, if you're going to compute for your net realizable value, this 25,000 here would still be deducted from your accounts receivable to get your net realizable value. So it has the same effect. So if you're asked to compute kung magkano yung amount na accounts receivable to be reported in your in your records, in your financial statements, then this 25,000 will be deducted. So that will be AR minus your allowance, your all of the allowances. So in this case, the allowance to customers for shipping damages. Another is the collections on carrier claims. So this one, we can just offset this na because this is related to the 100,000 in the debit side. So itong 100,000 na to, ito yung original transaction, and then the claims should be reduced to 60,000 kasi meron na siyang collection of 40,000. Okay, another is collection and subscription. So this one also is related to the subscriptions receivable. So this one, your shareholder subscription. So this 50,000 should reduce your subscriptions receivable. So therefore, your net subscriptions receivable na lang natin na dapat ma-recognize ay 150,000 na lang. Okay? So since we have already accounted for the items and we have already identified the specific nor the appropriate account titles for them, let us now proceed to computing the correct balance of your accounts receivable. So just clear muna all the drawings. And then I want you to direct your attention in this the account. So kanina, we have plotted already the different transactions that could affect, that could legitimately affect your accounts receivable and should be recorded under the account title accounts receivable. So what we're going to do here is just to get the balance of your accounts receivable. So you just add the debits and then you add the credits. Then you offset, of course. So you'll have a net amount of 1,225,000. So that's the gross accounts receivable. Now, since you're asked of the correct amount to be reported in your financial statement, so from that, from that gross amount, 1,225,000, we can deduct our allowance for shipping damages. So as what I've mentioned, I have separately recorded it as an allowance. So instead of deducting it immediately to your accounts receivable balance. So since it is still an allowance. Okay, so we can now answer our first natin na question or requirement. Magkano ba ang correct amount of the accounts receivable? So that is 1,200,000. So this is net already of the allowance for shipping damages. So this is what we consider as our net realizable value as of this end of the accounting period. So let us now proceed to the second requirement. So the second requirement is to compute for the amount to be presented as trade and other receivables under current asset. So before we can do that, I would like to prepare muna an adjusting entry so that we can recognize, we can reclassify the specific items here which should not be under your accounts receivable. So before going to number 2, before going to the to address the requirement number 2, so let us first have the adjusting entry. So this is the needed adjusting entry to correct our accounts receivable. So kanina we have computed our accounts receivable at 1,690,000. So we know that that amount is not correct. So the correct amount should have been 1,225,000 minus the 25,000. So yung net mo should have been 1.2 million. So there is a need kasi, di ba, as of now, the company, credible company, in its records, naka-reflect doon 1,690,000. So based on this records, based on this items listed under the ledger of accounts receivable. So with that, Kanina na-identify naman natin yung mga items na and kung ano yung specific na account title supposedly na dapat gamitin. So, these are the items to be debited. So, dapat i-debit natin yung subscriptions receivable that's related to the 200,000 shareholder subscription minus the collection. So, you have to debit subscriptions receivable. You also have to debit for the special deposit. For the deposit, I just use the account title special deposit in the amount of 120,000. Next is the claims receivable, yung claims natin against the common carrier. So net already of the collection, so we have na lang 60,000. Another is yung advances to employees. So yung mga IOUs from employees of 10,000. So we just debit advances to employees kasi that's the rightful account title to use. Another is the advances to affiliates. So you have 100,000. So that one should also be separately recorded. So you have this appropriate account title advances to affiliates. Next would be the 50,000 advances to supplier. So dapat separate din natin, tanggalin natin from the accounts receivable. So ito lahat yung debits natin. So if you're going to add this, it's a total of 490,000. Okay? So take note that we have to recognize yung allowance for customer, allowance for shipping damages or shipping damages pala, hindi shipping charges. So let me correct that. So that's 25,000. So, ibig sabihin, yung 490,000 natin dito, deduct natin yung 25,000. So, i-adjust natin from our accounts receivable should be 465,000. No? So, itong records natin dito, di ba kanina na-compute natin, that is 1,690,000. So, pag gumawa tayo ng adjusting entry na ganito, you are actually crediting, you are deducting the accounts receivable balance by 465,000. So yan, na-deduct na natin ng 465,000. So pag na-deduct na ng 465,000, so magkano na lang yung natira? So you'll have na lang 1,690 minus 465. So which is equivalent to what we have computed kanina na 1,225,000. Okay? So if you're going to deduct again your allowance for shipping damages, so you'll have na the correct amount to be reported in your statement of financial position, which is 1.2 million. Okay, so this is again, this adjusting entry is needed for us to correct our or the records of credible company. So considering that meron na tayong record, meron na tayong ledger para sa accounts receivable. So what you're going to do is just to clean it up. Eliminate those items that should not be recorded in that particular account. So pwede na tayong proceed sa requirement number 2. So kasi 'di ba, these are now the different receivables. So we'll try to identify whether these receivables are to be recognized as current ba or to be classified as current ba or non-current. So ano ba yung dapat nating isama? So una siguro, under the caption trade and other receivables, so una na nating ilista ang accounts receivable na net amount. So the accounts receivable natin ay 1.2 million as computed kanina. So next is yung mga nakalista dito. So pinakauna, do we consider subscriptions receivable as current? So since wala tayong information, our assumption is that itong subscriptions receivable na to ay hindi siya collectible within the next 12 months. So therefore, we will not include it as part of our trade and other receivables. So hindi siya kasama. Special deposit, as what we have discussed, diba, is basically a non-current receivable. So it's a non-current asset. So hindi rin natin pwedeng isama dito sa trade in other receivables. Next will be claims receivable. So this one is a current asset. No? So we have to include that in our list. Another is the advances to employees, which is also a current asset. Advances to affiliates normally is a long-term investment. It's a non-current asset. So hindi natin siya dapat sama sa ating trade and other receivables na caption. Lastly, we have advances to suppliers amounting to 50,000. So that one should be included. So in short, ito lang lahat ang dapat nating makita, no? Under the caption, trade in other receivables. So that's a total of 1,320,000. Okay, so that's it. We have discussed already, no? How do we answer the problem I have given you pertaining to credible company. So let's proceed to another problem, which was given also in paper. So we have here, the second problem is for mine company. So what we are asked here is to compute lang for the correct total of the current net receivables of mine. So what you're going to do is just analyze the list given if this should be included or not. So I'll start with 93,000. The trade accounts receivable, of course, that should be included. So since we're asked already of the net amount, so itong allowance for uncollectible accounts, we'll just deduct it immediately. Then we have claim against shipper for goods lost in transit. So this one should have been 2019. So this should have been 2019. So 3,000 is to be included because that's current. Another is the selling price of unsold goods sent by man on consignment at 130% of cost, not included in man's ending inventory. So before we determine whether this 26,000 should be added as one of our receivables, let's first discuss ano ba yung nature ng consignment. So let's understand muna what a consignment is. So consignment class is actually an arrangement, wherein there is what we call a consignor and a consignee. So dito sa consignment, ang mangyayari is that the consignor will just deliver goods to the consignee. Ang mangyayari is that if that goods na binili ni consignor ay hindi mabenta ni consignee, walang obligation si consignee na magbayad kay consignor. So there's really no sale transaction na nangyari pag consignment kasi what happened is that binilin lang ni consignor ang goods niya kay consignee. So pag mabenta yun, so of course magre-remit si consignee kay consignor for the amount that they have agreed. Usually kasi sa consignment agreement, example, if the selling price of the goods is 100, so the consignor will just say that I will just take 95 for this good. So ang 5 pesos ay kay consignee na. So yun yung magiging parang commission niya na. So pero pag hindi mabenta yung goods, then walang obligation si consignee kay consignor but just to return the goods. So isa sa uli lang ni consignee ang goods kay consignor. So ibig sabihin all throughout the consignment arrangement or agreement, if may goods si consignor na binili niya kay consignee, yung goods na yun, yung inventory na yun ay pag-aari ni consignor. So pag-aari siya ni consignor, hindi ni consignee. So in this problem, sabi niya, the ending inventory daw, or this one, itong goods held out on consignment, hindi daw nila ni-record as part of the ending inventory, which is not correct, because As I've said, since man here is the consignor, dapat yung cost, no, na yung equivalent cost ng goods na binili nila for consignment should be included as part of their ending inventory. Tapos ang question, may seal ba na nangyari? Di ba wala? Kasi consignment nga lang. So ibig sabihin, wala pang receivable si man sa consignee. So itong 26,000 na to, hindi pa talaga yan seal. No? So wala pang seal because wala pang report na nagsabi dito na yung goods na biniling kay consignee ay nabenta na ni consignee. So no seal transactions yet because this is just a consignment agreement or arrangement. Another is yung security deposit on list of warehouse used for storing some inventory. So as what we have said na generally pag security deposit, this is long term, so therefore we will not just include this. So basically, itong tatlo lang ang included in the computation of our current net receivable. So the current net receivable is 94,000. So that will be letter A ang ating answer. So that's it, no? That's the end of the discussion ng problem. So I hope you learned something and at least sana na-clarify no yung mga points na medyo confused pa kayo, especially for identifying items which should have been included, no, or not included in the caption trade and other receivables. That will be all and thank you for watching. Bye-bye. See you in the next video. Bye.